Howdy everybody, and welcome back to Dark Earth Customs. Tonight we're going to go about getting the passenger side front axle seal installed. Now I have come up with 4 or 5 versions of this tool. I am not paying hundreds of dollars for a tool that I might use twice in my life. So I'm just going to make my own. And since then, I have come up with about 5 different variations. I'm hoping this final variation will fix the problem that I'm having. And the problem that I'm having is this. This is a piece of threaded rod that I slide into the axle tube. This washer here sits on the outside of the axle tube. So here's where my wheel is supposed to be, and it goes inside the axle tube, and inside is this seal. Now the driver's side was piece of cake, passenger side not so much. This seal is supposed to go in here, and then I pull it through the axle tube into its position by tightening this nut here, which pulls this way. The problem I'm having is that the cup that I made gets threaded onto the end of this rod here, like so, and the seal is supposed to sit on the cup like this, and it gets pulled into the axle tube. But that's not working. I don't know why. I have tried absolutely everything. But as I pull it through, the seal starts to do this until it is then buckled inside the axle shaft. So I have come up with the 5th variation, which I believe will stop that kink from happening. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that right now. I have my propane heater heating up the axle tube, so I can get that axle tube to try to expand a little bit, and hopefully this will go in a little bit easier. But here's what I've come up with. Let's go ahead and get this outer cup off of here. Take the seal off of here, and I have a heavy-duty plate washer with a couple nuts welded to it. And if you can see my welding, forgive me. I'm trying to do this in a hurry and get this done, so some of it's good, some of it's bad. Whatever. If it gets the job done, that's all that matters. So now with this threaded washer on here, I can slide the seal on there and then the cup onto there. Then these two can be tightened up together, that way when I pull it in to the axle shaft, this washer here will hold this seal from tilting one way or another, and it should pull in straight. Then all I have to do is unscrew this cup off the end, and then pull the rod out of the axle shaft, and the seal should stay right in its home. Now you can see that this flange here that the washer sits on is smaller than the diameter of the seal itself. So going through the axle tube won't have any bearing, because it's this measurement that we use for the seal to go into the axle tube. So just like that, that should solve the problems. So I think the axle is probably warm enough, and why don't we go ahead and get started on getting that installed. I will have to thread all this in once it's inside the axle. It's going to be extremely tight, hard to film. If I run into problems, I might just have to show you the aftermath, because with the camera there, the light there, where I have to be is like 1 cubic foot of space. So I'll try my best, but why don't we go ahead and get this started and see about getting this seal installed. Okay, everybody, so I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but that is my propane heater. What I am going to try to do, and I'll go ahead and show you this in a minute, I am going to try to actually heat up the axle tube. I have the seal for the axle tube in the freezer, so it's ice cold and has shrunk because metal shrinks when cold. I'm heating up my axle tube with my propane heater. That way the tube will hopefully expand a little bit, because metal expands when it's warm or hot. So hopefully it should be just as simple as pushing the new seal in, because it has been an absolute bear to this point to try to get the seal in place. So why don't I go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me or not, but that's my propane heater, and it is aimed right at the axle tube, right where the seal needs to go in. So once it gets hot enough, I'm going to get the seal out of the freezer, and I'm going to get the seal put in place. Alright, everybody, as you can see, it is crazy tight down under here. And there's my hand right there, right in front. There's about 10 inches. What we're going to do is I'm going to start by taking a little bit of bearing grease and going around the seal here to try to maybe lubricate it a little bit better to get it to go in. These are extremely hard to get in. It is a horrible design. Granted, I love my truck. I love the second gen Dodges greatly. This is a horrible design. And every vehicle has their highs and lows. And this is Dodges on this one. Alright, so I got the seal just sitting there. Now we're going to go ahead and get this outer cup threaded on the rod, which should be fairly interesting. Try to actuate that rod from the outside of the axle shaft. Oh, come on. This axle tube is a bit warm to the touch. Sure would be nice if these parts would not fight me so much. I have no idea why that washer backed all the way out. Wasn't supposed to move at all. So, let's try it again. Alright, take two. Alright, seal goes in. Now, let's try to get this cup on the end of it. There is just absolutely no space without a lift. None whatsoever. Everything I'm doing by feel. I can't even see anything. Alright, guys. I'll have to get this set up and come back, because it's just fighting me to absolutely no end. There's zero reason it needs to be this difficult. All right, here we go. So I got the cup, the seal, and the washer all snugged up together. Put some grease in the axle shaft to try to help this seal slide better. And now all that I should have to do is line it up on the outside and start threading it in. So I got that outer washer lined up on the cup on the outside of my axle tube. So it's straight. I just need to get this nut tightened up against it, which is taking for absolute ever. All right, so that's looking like it's lined up pretty good. Well, here we go. Let's try to drive this seal home. I see that it looks like it's pretty level all the way around. So it should just slide right into its home. It's very hard to do this blindly. And now it's threading the entire rod, which it's not supposed to be doing. But I suppose as long as it pulls from one end or the other, doesn't matter. Alright guys, so I'm going to keep wrenching on this, and I will come back to you when it's done. Okay everyone, you can see there, the seal is now seated inside its home here for the axle tube. I hope I never have to ever do this again unless the car is on a lift, because it is an absolute nightmare doing this on the ground. Obviously it can be done. You only have to have a welder, a bunch of special parts and odds and ends that you weld together in a conglomerate of crap to make a tool that will fix your inside axle seal that is not normal to any other vehicle than this. The rest of them are on the outside of the axle by where the wheels are. So now that this is all said and done, we are going to get started on the rest of this. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to do any more on this video, or if I'm just going to cut this one short, make it a nice and little short video, a quick video on getting the seal in. Because the next step is to unpackage my new axle shafts. Yeah, I bought new axle shafts because I mangled the originals. So I got to get the axle shafts in. I got to put in the shift fork. I also have to repair a line here on the shift fork, because looking here at it, it's gonna be hard to show you unless I twist this around. That line is broke and has a piece of electrical tape on it, which means it was broke before I got to it, which is probably why things weren't always working exactly correctly as they should, whether with the shifter or with the engine running right. That's a vacuum line. That broken line is a vacuum line, and that means that was open vacuum to the engine. So that explains a lot. But anyway, this needs to be fixed and installed. The axle shafts need to be fixed the axle shafts need to be installed. Then I can actually put the wheels back on. However, that's not the end of this. Whether it is right away or not, I'm not sure. The thing is, I use this truck for hauling a lot of stuff, a lot of heavy stuff. So I decided to make this a heavy half. Now, to any of you that don't know what a heavy half is, back in the 80s, a lot of truck makers made what they called heavy halves. And what they were half-ton trucks with 3/4-ton suspension. And that's what I'm doing in here. I have 3/4-ton leaf springs because 3/4-ton leafs were an option for the half-ton trucks. So that's the route I'm going by putting in new rear 3/4-ton leafs. I have one 3/4-ton front coil. Surprise, surprise, when I went back to go get the other one at the junkyard, they had scrapped the car. Or scrapped the truck, I mean. So I got kind of the SOL on that one. So now I have to hunt up another 3/4-ton leaf or 3/4-ton coil to do the other side. There's also a few odds and ends that have to be fixed and tied up also. But I have plans for this year that need to be done, and I'm hoping to have this truck to do it. So what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and call this one for tonight. On the next video, I will get out from under here. We're going to put, well, yeah, we'll do the axle shafts first because I need to be able to see them. So we'll take the axle shafts, put the new axle shafts in, put the so put the new axle shafts in, put the intermediate shaft in, put the shift fork in, and you got to put the carrier back in. I suppose actually the carrier has to be done first because the axle shafts have to go into the carrier. So we'll start with the carrier, axle shafts, intermediate shaft, shift fork, and then I can get up from under this accursed thing for right now. So, I hope you enjoyed the short show. And remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all again later.